So I got a question from Tater Bear about this painting. The question is kind of a weird question here, but I was thinking about this on one of my paintings a little while ago. In this piece, if you had to change the focal point now, where would you put it? Well, there aren't a lot of options on this design, are there? I think, at most, I could possibly shift the sunlight on this hill up a little bit, maybe a bit to the left, and really put some glare in here, really put some strength. But then we're right in the center of the painting. I could also intensify this orangish stuff that I have down here, bring it right up to the base of these trees, allow a tree trunk to catch some light, and this to become more orange. That would shift the focal point down here. As it sits right now, if you want a focal point, I'd say it's right here. Where this distant, high value, sort of high-ish chroma, yellow, ochre, and white sits against this very dark trees in the foreground. We have that drama there. So it's not just the fact that it's light, it's the fact that it's light against dark, very light against very dark. Darkest on the painting, basically. So, to the person who would be standing beside me saying, you know, holding a gun to my head and saying, you have to move the focal point, I could only really reply, my dearest assassin, you're going to have to pull the trigger, because I'm not changing it. On this little design, the focal point is, in my opinion, exactly where it should be. A little to the right of center, the strongest area. A little below center, you know, the strongest area. And I don't go with focal point, I go with focal area. You go to a larger canvas, focal points become maybe a little more important. Well, it really kind of depends on the scene itself. So it's really the best place on this painting for it, and that's why I'm going to leave it there. Don't forget that when you start a painting, personally, the first thing I think of is my focal point in my design, in my charcoal sketch. Now this wasn't a sketch, but this is, you know, really started out just as a study, and I've modified it and calmed it down and refined it a little bit and made it into more of a small painting. Excuse me. But on a larger painting, anything really much larger than this, I will usually do a charcoal sketch. Often on this size I will too, but I didn't this time. So your focal point, you know, that's one of your first thoughts, that you kind of design your drawing around your focal point or focal area. You know, and then of course, which direction is the light coming from? But you know, questions like that. Now those can change and be modified as the development of the painting occurs. You don't have to pick it and stick to it. You know, you really, it's a malleable thing. So I have had it very often where my focal point, the spot where I thought my focal point would be, and I never pick one spot, I always pick an area that I know it's going to be. It's never dead center. You know, it's never going to be too close to the edge. Never too close to the top or to the bottom. It's always sort of going to be somewhere around here. Right side or left side, higher or lower, whatever, it doesn't matter. There are some mathematical equations out there which frankly I find ridiculous to follow, because you need to get a little experience, and your intuition will tell you. You know, your intuition is just a compilation of experience and practice. That'll tell you what will look best. And you can change it as you move along. My paintings constantly change. They evolve as I'm painting them. It's great to have a plan. You need to have a plan, or you'll have no reference point. You'll have no benchmark to work from. but don't be afraid to allow that to change as you're developing your painting. So that's not much of an answer to your question, but it's the best I've got. Maybe what I'll do is, oh yeah, okay. Well, you can see I broke up the sky a little bit, changed it a little bit, just to give it a little more flavor. Allow the sky to introduce this hillside. Well, it used to be a mountain, now it's more of a hillside. Tall hills, and then down into the painting. Or you could, look here, and then you're sort of the freedom, it lets your eye off the edge. I like that notion. It worked well in this painting. Yeah, and for example, getting back actually to that focal point. When I first did the painting, it was just a plein air study, and I honestly could not see very well what I was doing. So my colors were quite a mess, values were quite a mess. When I cut back into it, I had some ideas as to what I'd like to do. And now remember that near the beginning here we have this line which points to our focal point. This line parallels it, strengthens this line in many ways. Even this little distant hill more aims back down to the focal point. The line up along this bush points to the focal area. Here too points to the focal area, or focal point. We'll say focal area. So it's got all that support behind it. And because all of these lines, why do I keep hitting my painting with the butt of my brush? All of these lines support this area. It's like this, and it stops here, and it stops here, and it stops, because we have these very strong vertical, intense designs here. We know that the buck stops here. We know that's where the business is, and what better place to have a focal area than where the most intense of the business is. Okay, I'm gonna back. No, I'm not gonna back the camera off. I'm going to do some. Oh no, sorry. I'll do colors first, and then I'll do a zoom in. Okay, the sky, cobalt blue, yellow ochre, and white. These distant hills. Ultramarine blue, hints of cobalt blue, yellow ochre, and burnt sienna and white. This sort of distant masses of green. The golden dried out grasses on the hill here. Yellow ochre, alizarin crimson. I'm sorry. To this mixture of the greens in here, I added a touch of alizarin crimson as well. So cobalt blue, ultramarine blue, alizarin crimson, burnt sienna, yellow ochre, and white. It's quite a mishmash up here. Coming down into here, we have alizarin crimson, yellow ochre, and ultramarine blue, and white. Same here, only obviously favoring more of the yellow ochre. But not just scumbling, not just scrubbing, laying in some thoughtful brush strokes. These trees are ultramarine blue and burnt sienna and white. I laid in a couple of spots of trunk here and there. That's just straight raw umber and white. This field in the foreground, for the most part, it's cobalt blue, hints of ultramarine blue, alizarin crimson, yellow ochre, and white. A lot more yellow ochre up here, okay? More yellow ochre again down here. Here we lost the yellow ochre and we just went with the blues and with the alizarin crimson and white to become quite purple and cooler and more subdued. I have a line across here of pretty much straight burnt sienna and white. See this straight line, just a slash maybe of more intense light cutting across the field. This bush in the foreground is cobalt blue and burnt sienna and white. Cobalt blue keeps things a little bit cooler. We know we want this in the shadow. This is dark, but that's, the foliage is quite dark. But here I didn't want to go even darker. I wanted to allow some color to show And that's why I used cobalt blue, because it produces a very cool, subdued green. I did not want this subdued because this is our strength right here. Okay, I'll do a quick zoom here. Complete with shaking and jittering. It's good to see things up close, warts and all, you know. If you don't have warts on there, you have a very smooth, contrived looking piece of work the second you back up. With something with anomalies and warts and bumps and what have you, what you have is variety, even though it's somewhat subtle, but it keeps things interesting. And you know, this is only 8 by 10 inches. You're not going to view it from 2 feet away. It's more of a decorative piece that will hang on your wall somewhere. Maybe a small wall, maybe a corner somewhere, or maybe a collection of them. But you stand back and look at them. You know, they're not like realism, where you tend to get up more close and have a peek. But realism, to me, I like to view my paintings from a bit of a distance, so I don't like to scrutinize. I've bought artwork from other painters as well, and I rather view it from a few steps away rather than just standing directly in front of it. If you want to sort of pick up on the technique they used, and you know, or if you want to enjoy their skill, then that's what you do. You step up close and scrutinize the painting. But you are indeed then scrutinizing the painting. You're not enjoying it. The signature on this, you know, I don't want my signature to be very apparent on this one. I think I'd like to keep it dark and subdued. It's entirely possible that I just go practically black with the signature and lay it across the bottom of that bush, so that you kind of have to struggle to find it. I was tempted to put it across there, but no, I like that area, and I don't want to sort of, if I were to lay that signature on the lower left, it would just be a continuation of that bush, and one band across the middle of the painting is enough. We'll leave it at that. Okay. Oh, I was going to take it off and get rid of it, but I do have to put my signature on first. Okay, well, in a minute I'm going to take it off, and we're going to get back to this one. I'm looking forward to jumping back into this. It was nice to take a break, though. Do a little plein air for the day. All right, see you soon, guys.